Clay just tried to clap us in, and I'm feeling really uncomfortable about it. I feel like we just kind of established who does what here. I've always done the intro clap, and then now you're clapping.
So it wasn't clapping. I clapped one time.
Yeah.
It was a clap.
But that's my thing.
While you were over here, and nothing happened.
Yes.
It's kind of like the band
Correct.
guy that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and nobody plays.
Has that ever happened in a band you were in?
It has definitely happened before.
Is it to stick it to the guy?
Yes.
Ooh.
It's kind of like when the offensive line's mad at the quarterback, and they just let people go hit them.
Yeah.
That's exactly
That's
right.
not good. That's not good. So, do y'all pick up after that at some point, or do you just walk off the field, or what happens?
No, we just laugh at them.
But I mean, you have a performance, right? Aren't you in the middle of a performance when that happens?
Yeah, but, it was at places where people thought it was funny. Or at least we did.
Well, oh, man.
And here's
you
the
do
whole
that to the
clap-
quarterback, you know what happens next, another play. But
that's
a
right.
band performance isn't broken up like that. You got
Usually you got the guy that's been a little bit of a prick during practice for the week or whatever, and he wants everything to be his way. And so you just tell him, hey, man, you're right. Why don't you count us off on the first song? and then he counts you off on the first song. Nothing happens, and you just laugh at him. And about the time he gets ready to say something, the drummer goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you got to play, and he's just got to roll with it.
nice.
Yeah.
That's tough.
That's where it is. And the other thing about the clapping, and I understand authority and change of, lineage of authority and all that and everything, but I know how to clap well. I even know that you're supposed to clap on 2 and 4 instead of 1 and 3, and so.
Depends on what church you go to.
Depends on what country you're in, apparently.
I'm saying.
But if you're in any country besides the United States, we're going to clap on 2 and 4.
Yeah.
So,
saying.
anyhow, you did the clap. I'm here. Hey, things are good.
Yeah. I'm just saying things happen when I did it.
Amen.
And so, what's been going on with you, man?
What is today? We're a day late. Today's Thursday.
Yeah.
Man, been having some counseling sessions.
Leap day.
Yep. Say it?
It's a leap day.
It is leap day. That's never really crossed my mind. Something that did cross my mind is, and I posted this on Facebook a little earlier today, but I hadn't went back and checked it to see if anybody, saw it or whatever. But today marks 60 days of us reading the Bible together through, 2 months of us reading the Bible together through. So I was just curious to find out what what their favorite scriptures were this time.
Yeah.
Because if you ask me my favorite scripture, it comes from that group, and we've talked about that before. But the one that meant the most to me this time was a different scripture. So I just asked people on Facebook to write down or to comment their favorite scriptures so far of the last 2 months, or their favorite passage.
Okay.
So we'll see what people's response to that is.
Yeah, that'll definitely be interesting. I wonder how many you'll get from Leviticus. I would think
So
that'd
Tyler Dean.
I would think that'd be few and far between. Yeah.
I would challenge Drew Wiggers to come up with one from Leviticus.
Yeah.
I think Drew would enjoy a good challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also know that he's a fan of this show. So we're challenging you, Drew Wiggers, to come up with your favorite scripture from Leviticus and post it somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know if he's gonna do it. I don't know if he's gonna do it. I don't know if he.
Tell me why you think that he wouldn't do it. What qualities about Drew Wiggers makes you think that he won't do this challenge?
I could tell you why I don't think he'll do it, because Drew, while I think Drew does enjoy a good challenge, I think that he also isn't going to feel kind of goaded into it. You know what I mean? And so I feel like, because of the nature of the challenge, I think he might say, hey, look, you don't control me.
Yeah.
I'll
So
pick
he
whatever
might just
scripture
say-
I want.
Yeah, he might just say, I have no favorite scripture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like any.
I don't read the Bible.
Yeah. I don't know how
Classic
to spell
Drew.
Leviticus.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
How are things with you?
Yeah, things are well. It's been, an interesting week, around our house, with Courtney and just some different things going on with the kids and moving around a lot, and so it's been wild. Not every week is like that, but this particular week it's just been kind of an all hands on deck to help take care of everybody. But everybody's doing better. Everybody's feeling better. We don't have any sickness or anything like that right now, and so I guess that's kind of the main thing. It's like coming out of all of that has been kind of refreshing, but it's also like we got behind on a lot of stuff because we just had so much going on. So kind of catching up on laundry, catching up on restocking our pantry and fridge and stuff like that. And so last week's been kind of a blur, to be honest, but everything's good. I no complaints about anything for sure. Just ready to step into what's next, and things at Fresh Start on the work end are going spectacularly, and so that's always interesting. We've had some trials and stuff with the Fresh Start community and stuff like that over the last week, and so a lot of long conversations, a lot of loving on people, a lot of ministering to people, and that part's never fun, but it is absolutely necessary. And I don't know, I don't really have a lot to say about it. It just kind of is what it is, and I don't think there's any way to make it sound better.
Right.
But man, we genuinely love all the people. There's a lot of people in our community hurt right now, and just trying to be there for them. So that's kind of been my lately.
Yeah, I get the opportunity to preach another funeral tomorrow, which is not the number one thing on my list, especially not from somebody that I've known for a long time and, love him and his family and stuff. So it's difficult. I like weddings and things a lot more than funerals.
Oh, sure.
But anyhow, we we'll get the opportunity to minister to a lot of people that we normally don't get to minister to. And we get to speak the love of Jesus to them and show them who they are in Christ.
Yeah. So. And that's, we say stuff like this all the time, but, I think that people take it as like a scare tactic or fear tactic, when we're like, hey, look, man, now is the time to start taking this serious. And it's never, from our perspective, it's never that, If I got to scare you into something, it won't take root. I'm well aware of that. And so I have zero interest in scaring you into doing something, but I am telling you the legitimacy of how dangerous and how fragile life is. It is true. It is true. Yeah. And, so if there's people out there struggling that are listening, or you're a listener and somebody who's struggling, man, now is the time to take action and start trying to change your situation and their circumstances. And so if there's anything we can do to help with that, please reach out to us so we can be of whatever assistance we can be.
It's interesting that you said, seeing how fragile life is. I got a new revelation on that yesterday, and it's not something that I want to share corporately yet, but it's just a new revelation through casual conversation of how fragile this life is, and it really is. We worry about so many things all the time that doesn't really matter, and we need to realize that we got to take care of first things first. I was just doing counsel with a young man, and he's got all this going on and and he's wanting to do right, and God's been speaking to him and and different things, and he's like, so what do I do? And I said, we'll give you the same advice that I give people all the time. Very generic, but it is what it is. Do the first right thing right now.
Yeah.
Whatever the next right thing is, do it right now. Don't get so caught up in, forever and all this. Do the next right thing. Whatever God's showing you right now. You came and saw me today. That was a good thing,
Sure.
Now, what are we going to do from here? Well, God said this. We'll do that. That sounds good, and that sounds like it comes from God. It's in the Bible. You said God said it. It's in the Bible lots of times. It also tells you what happens if you don't do that. So that sounds like the next right thing.
Yeah.
And so, just encourage people to do the next right thing. Don't get so caught up into all this, stuff of the world, but do the next right thing, whatever God is showing you that is.
Yeah. I will say one really positive thing that's been happening lately. I say lately. Today it was first for me, but there is a Bible study that happens on Thursday mornings at Shelter Insurance, Elliot Britt over there, and so we got some men from some different churches and stuff like that meeting together, and doing a Bible study at 5:30 in the morning over there on Thursdays. And man, I got to go today for the first time, and that was awesome. It was awesome. So refreshing to see people from different churches and denominations and backgrounds, stuff like that, coming together. Letting Jesus be king. Like, don't sweat the small stuff. That's not what we're doing here. And just coming together and being in the Word and discussing, how to continue taking this Word out and expand this into the community and get more people involved. And I'm fired up about it, man. Very, very proud of those men who were a part of getting that together. And I think he said they've been doing it either like a year or half a year or something.
That's what I was going to tell you. I think it's really more like a year.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while. But man, I really just feel like that the Lord is moving in our parish right now. I think He always wants to move. I think we're the ones who kind of stifle that. But I think that there's a lot of men that are opening up to looking at the whole thing a different way, and they're really starting to see the big picture, myself included. Right. I'm not saying it's me and I've always known, but now they're getting it. Right. I think we're all growing into truth together, and so the other stuff's starting to not matter so much. Mm-hmm. And man, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and so excited to get to sit in on that and be a part of that. Got to see Roy Ely this morning. Yeah. He was there as well.
I saw a lot. I've heard a lot of really good testimonies from that. Kyle goes a good bit, and I got to talk to some different ones, and it seems like God's moving greatly in that Bible study and in some more. I know there's another one at the coffee shop on Friday mornings early, and a group of men getting together and stuff. So, hey, I love to see young men getting together, studying God's Word, praying for each other, loving on each other, and sowing into each other's lives, man. And that's some really cool stuff.
Yeah, and a shout out to FBC Wisner right now, man, because we're not afraid to just say that God is moving somewhere. God is doing a work over there. I think that's a beautiful thing, and I'm excited. I was telling them this morning. One of the guys just recently just like kind of caught fire for the Lord. I've known him for a while. I was just telling him, like, as soon as I saw it catch fire for him and another guy, I was like, I got to figure out where they're at. Mm-hmm. I just want to be next to them while this is happening. Mm-hmm. It's such a joy to get to see people that you care about really receive a deep revelation of the love of Jesus.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand is good, godly community is contagious.
Oh, sure.
And so you get people fired up in a church, and that's the reason why these retreats work so well and stuff that's happening in Franklin and Richland Parish and stuff, because you get men that, were connected to the church but not really committed to the church. You get them to these retreats, they realize how much God loves them, and they realize that God's not mad at them. And they start learning who they are in Christ. Well, next thing you know, they get fired up. Well, they're going to go to church, and they're going to fire up other people that are around. And so the fire that's now in them is rekindling a fire in somebody else that's kind of burnt out a little bit. And then they're able to reach people that, people like us may not be able to reach. And I think it's real, it's real contagious. That's the reason why it works at Fresh Start. That's the reason why Fresh Start is always going to have people loving the Lord and on top of it stuff. It doesn't matter if it's the men's center or the women's center, but the size of those centers, because people are coming to the Lord all of the time, it's like a strong fire for the Lord at all times. Now, sometimes it's a little stronger than others, but that's the reason why these people, make this brotherhood or this sisterhood that lasts, because somebody in that 60-man center is going to be fired up because he just realized what Jesus really did for him. He realized to tell us that it's finished, and he's going to encourage the next ones and the next ones. And we see that happen. So it's good to see that not only at Fresh Start and at the men and women centers, but also to see that in our community.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And you don't realize it, but, the whole fire kindling deal, you summed up about half an hour of our conversation this morning. And just kind of how those roles support each other and play off of each other. And, you got your people who've been in it for a while that are involved, but those new believers coming in with that fresh fire, it really invigorates all the ones of us who've been in it a while, because it can... I don't want to say get stale, because I don't believe that following Jesus gets stale, but I believe that if we let our relationship with Jesus unconsciously turn into religious activity and no longer relationship, we kind of fall into a stale place, which has nothing to do with God. It has everything to do with us going through the motions and checking boxes rather than seeking Him. But it happens sometimes, and that's why accountability is so important. Because so many people think accountability is just calling each other out on when somebody does something wrong. That's entry level accountability.
Right.
I hope that our relationship is far beyond like us just calling each other out on doing something wrong. Like, I need somebody who's like, hey, look, man, when you were reading because you really wanted to read, or were you reading because you felt like you had to? That's the kind of accountability I need.
Right.
It's just people making sure that I'm not falling into this place of, just monotonous religious obedience, because it's no good. And so that's a big part of it. And so we got to talk about that a lot this morning. And I think everybody was really receiving. Chris Williams is kind of the one who pushed that analogy forward, and it was really, really good. And I think everybody was able to really receive from what he was saying, and it was good stuff. Yep. But
so here's the big question. It started at 5:30.
Yep.
What time did it end?
It seemed like it's kind of a come and go situation. We walked out all together at about 6:50. But based on what I could tell, because I didn't get there at 5:30, I trained people on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings really, really early. And I actually moved it. And I don't want to make this point clear, because I think that somebody out there needs to hear what I'm about to say. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I wake up at 4 o'clock, and I train people at 5 a.m. until 6:30, just depends on the day, right? I got invited to this Bible study, which was important to me. And so I think most people would agree that waking up at 4 a.m. is a pretty early wake up, right? So it would have been very easy for me to say, hey, I'm already getting up at 4. I don't think I'm going to be able to make that Bible study. If y'all do something another time, man, let me know. But here's what I did instead. I pushed my wake up earlier. I wake up at 3:30 now. And I train the guys at 4:30 until 5:30. And at 5:30, I leave. I go to the Bible study. I got there about 5:45, 5:50. I checked with Elliot beforehand to make sure that wasn't going to be a distraction or anything like that. And he was like, no, people kind of come in between 5:30 and 6. And so I want people to understand, like, everybody's got a reason not to be apart. Everybody's got a reason not to be in a group of intimate believers.
We're all busy,
and
we
brother.
got things
Yeah,
to do.
like,
Right.
I hear you. Right. I wake up at 3:30. I'm not going to go to bed until after 10. That's my life, right? And then I'm going to do it again tomorrow. You can make time for the things that are valuable.
Amen.
You make time for the things that are valuable. And this meeting of believers together means something to me.
Amen.
And so I changed my whole schedule in a way that was completely justifiable not to mess with.
Right.
Because it's valuable to me and it means something to me. And am I a little more tired? Yeah, I am a little more tired.
Right.
Is that okay? You're dang right it's okay.
Right.
Because that's not what it's about. I'll find some time to rest somewhere else. God always gives me an opportunity to rest when I need it.
Amen.
He does. So starts at
y'all
5:30. Walked out about 6:50.
Okay.
But if you can get there anytime between 5:30 and 6, it seems like you'll really be there still for the beginning.
So here's my question there. Was there like a Was there an exact end? Did something change at the end to let you know it was the ending?
I don't know how it normally goes, but today I ended it sort of for everybody, not on purpose. It just got to, I got to be at work at 7,
Okay.
and so it's not far from my work, and so at about 6:50, I closed my Bible and it's like, hey, look, fellas, I got to run.
Okay.
This was killer. Like, let me know what I can do, because they got a retreat coming up. I was like, let me know. I'm probably not going to be able to make the retreat, but I was like, let me know on the follow-up side. Y'all get some new believers. We need to hang out with them in the community. Let me know. I want to be a part of that. I want to be where. And so they said it. I think he said it ends at 7 when he first told me about it.
Well, the reason
And
I'm wondering is because it seems like that, the bulk of the people there are Baptist. So,
Yes.
so I'm just wondering if it ended with an altar call, for salvation or something, or if it might have ended with Elliot trying to sell everybody insurance,
Yeah.
and trying to get you to flip your insurance business there. So, just wondering what kind of ending it has. Is all this a ploy to try to send into the Baptist Convention how many people we got saved, or are we trying to build Elliot Brett's insurance
That's funny.
Brett's insurance business, or is this strictly just guys loving the Lord and getting together and growing each other?
That's a good question.
We love all these guys.
I
We're
actually
just
already,
messing around with 'em.
all my insurance is already through Elliot.
Oh,
Which
okay.
may be why I got the invite.
That might be the reason why they let you go.
Maybe a members only.
It might be.
Yeah, I have to ask him
Secret
about
handshake,
that. Yeah.
something like that. We'll have to ask Elliot about this
That's good. So hey, look, man, I got to get to know you segment question.
because
It's-
we don't know each other.
yeah, it's a little different than the line of questions that you prefer. I feel like I say that every week. That it's a little different. So just bear with me on that.
Yeah.
But I want to know, Clay, growing up, at some point we all, kind of come to a realization about some things at different times. I want to know what or who was Clay Russell's first crush. Who was Clay Russell's first crush, right?
Yeah.
So you grow,
Yeah, so I really don't like get to know you segment questions at all, and here's why. Because I was wondering about that. It's because I don't like transparency. All these Christians put transparency so high up on their list.
Yeah.
They're like, let me just be real with y'all. Let me be transparent with you. It's really not what I'm trying to accomplish. That's not one of my highest values.
Yeah.
Is to be transparent with everybody. And then the other side of it is I don't remember, exactly having a crush or something. So I will answer this the most generic way possible, because I feel like, because you're probably going to say that, I'm going to say somebody from the Bible or something like this and give some
You
kind
usually do something like
some
that.
kind of righteous answer. So I'm going to answer as generic as possible.
Based on everything you've said so far, I fear you're going to say Burt Reynolds.
And there you go. You know what? Dolly Parton would have been a good one right there. But that's not where I'm going to go. I'm going to go with the most generic answer for my age group, because if this is not your answer, there's something wrong with you, because I'm a 47-year-old man. And if you're anywhere in that age category, if your first crush wasn't Daisy Duke, then you had more TV channels than we had. Because I can't think of anybody else on TV that when we had Channel 8 and Channel 14 that you should have a crush on besides Daisy Duke.
That is funny.
Yeah.
That
so
is
the Duke's
funny.
a hazard. I'm even driving a Dodge Challenger now.
That's right.
So
That's right.
it is what it is. So, yeah, the answer is definitely Daisy Duke.
So I remember the Dukes of Hazzard, the original show, because they remade a movie. So our Daisy Duke was Jessica Simpson, and so, but I
Is that
was
Roger Rabbit? Or what show was that?
Jessica Rabbit.
Jessica
that was
Rabbit.
yeah.
Oh,
Who
that's
framed
somebody
Who
else.
framed Roger Rabbit? Yeah, no. Jessica Simpson was like the Taylor Swift of.
okay.
Of you would have loved her. So no, I was exposed to older television shows. You know,
Okay.
I grew up in that kind of family, so I grew up watching the original Dukes of Hazzard and stuff like that. And so, but people my age, if you say Daisy Duke, they're thinking Jessica Simpson. And so there has been.
She played her on the movie.
Correct.
There you go.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
you go.
Wrong hair color and everything.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they just,
yeah. I remember
it's like
that
they
now.
didn't care at all. Have you considered painting your car like the General Lee?
No,
Would you consider it?
no.
Would you be willing to make a wager?
I mean, I wouldn't. It's not really what I'm trying to do. I mean, I could have afforded any one that I wanted. I chose the one that I wanted. I haven't changed my mind.
I don't know, man.
I mean,
Isn't it just like?
I mean, I
Isn't it
went
just
to a
dark?
place.
Isn't it just dark gray?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just dark gray. It's graphite. It's the exact color I was looking for.
So you can
I
write
went
with
to
it.
a dealership in Dallas that had, I think they had like 200 Chargers and Challengers. I could have bought any one that I wanted,
That seems excessive.
and this is the one that I wanted. And I really haven't changed my mind.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I'm playing in this sleeper fantasy football league where you keep your players and you just add players and stuff.
Yeah.
And these people are really mad at me because I'm not interacting a lot with them and I'm not changing. I'm not trading my players all the time and stuff. And so I
You
don't
picked them because you wanted them.
yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have notifications set up on there because I don't want these guys that I don't know, able to access me at any time. So, about once every 2 weeks, it's the off season, I check the account. Well, Cooper, he has the notifications for my team on there.
Of course he does.
And he texts me and he's like, "Look, man, these guys on Sleeper are talking trash, and they're really wanting you to trade and this kind of stuff." The whole deal is this: I really like my players. I really like my team. I really like my car. And I really like my friend Andrew, and I'm really not trying to change any of that.
Some of those
I'm okay
things
with that.
change whether you want to or not.
Well, there are
It's,
things that's going to change no matter what, but the things that there's things that are just true.
Yeah. Yep.
And I like them. So anyhow, I would say Daisy Duke. So, what about you, Andrew? What was your first crush?
So, funny enough, we're pretty close to the same.
There you go.
like a letter different.
Okay.
So I don't know why I'm telling people this.
Here we go.
When I was 3, I had a massive crush. A crush so passionate that I was willing to fight anyone over this particular woman. And I can't say that she ever reciprocated that feeling for me. But I can tell you that my first crush and the most severe crush I've had up until I met my wife was Daisy Duck.
I just told the audience that when you weren't looking. Audience, you heard it here first.
Daisy Duck.
There you go. I like it.
That was my first crush.
Yeah.
We had a Mickey Mouse bingo game that every card is a different character, and if anyone took the Daisy Duck card,
That was your card.
not only did I cry, I would attempt to pry it from your cold, dead hands.
Oh, my.
And so it was, how did this happen or why? I have no idea. I have no recollection whatsoever, but it is very well documented among my family members that my first and strongest crush was none other than Daisy Duck
Yeah,
herself.
but your daddy was proud.
You know? That's a can of worms we probably shouldn't open on this episode. Oh man!
I thought about it twice.
There
before I said
are
it.
there are worse things, I suppose. Could have been Donald.
Yeah, there you
that
go.
would have been a problem.
Good.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that is.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. Now
Let's
you're
keep
gonna
going.
offend Drew Wiggers.
Here we go.
Yeah.
We gotta keep going.
So The last week we talked about practical ways to not get offended. We've talked about trying to avoid offense in the past, or different methods and stuff like that you can utilize, or whether or not we believe that being offended is an okay thing or a healthy thing, or is it situational. And so we just kind of detailed that out a little bit. You and I kind of have a little bit of a different stance on it to a degree, more of a language thing than anything else.
But you know what? That language deal led to so many really good conversations.
Sure.
In fact, somebody that we're really close to had never heard that side of things, and but he listens to Jesus Cartel, and he heard that side of things, and he really thought about it, prayed about it, and kind of took it to a different level of why just leaving that door open is a good thing. And so, we were, wanting to look at things from a different angle and stuff, and he did, and him and I talked about it, and in fact, I've talked to a lot of people about that over the last week that really enjoyed that conversation that we had, and just thinking about how to handle stuff. They enjoyed whether or not you should. They enjoyed, based on what level a person is to you, then you may listen a little more, or, the part about, if somebody doesn't have the same revelation of Christ that you do, I mean, how much of that should you take in at all? And so those are conversations that we've been able to have this week. So I was glad that our listeners gave us that question like a month ago, and I thought it was good for us to visit on it last week, and it's been the topic of conversation this week.
Sure. Yep. I will say this, because this is something that I just want to acknowledge. I do myself tend to march kind of to the beat of my own drum in a lot of things. And I'm okay with that, because I am everything is centered around trying to do things as similarly to Christ as possible. I don't have another, I'm not comparing myself to this person or that person. Now, do I always have a full understanding of exactly what Jesus would have done in every situation? Probably not. I'm learning. I'm growing, and I'm a lot better at it now than I was a few years ago, and I'll be better at it a few years from now than I am now. But I say that to say there are some characteristics of mine that I believe that Jesus had that definitely put me on an island away from people, because where you talked about kind of leaving the door open for that, which doesn't exactly mean what it sounds like it means.
Yeah, we did.
But if you didn't listen last week and you hear that, you kind of have an assumption of probably what that means. You're wrong. You need to listen to it so that you can hear the full explanation of it. But I don't leave any doors open for things at all, and that really does put me on an island in a lot of situations. So much so that a lot of people resent me for it. And because it's fun to talk about. How many times we hear people say, "Hey, just say whatever. You're not gonna hurt my feelings," and they don't mean that.
Right.
They absolutely don't mean that, and I do, and so it's rubber has to meet the road at some point with different things like that. And so, for me, if Jesus ever tells me to close a door, I close it, and I don't open it again. I don't revisit it. And so it doesn't, and that's what I say, our difference is more language than practicality. It sounds different when you just, discussion. It sounds different when you just have the no context and hear what you just said versus what I'm saying now. It's like, oh man, they're on a very different place. We're really not. But I say that to say we can't. What's the old saying? You can't have your cake and eat it too. There are so many things that as Christians or believers that we really would like to possess, and we verbalize them, but then we don't have the follow-up. And man, that just creates so much problems. You have to. It's so important to be able to self-analyze and be honest with yourself. And so don't put yourself in a place that you're not yet. Don't place yourself as more mature than you are. more important than you are, better at these things than you are. Because when it gets time, I say gets time like it has happened, when those things are tested and you don't follow through, not only are you wrong, you're also a liar. And people can deal with you being wrong a lot easier than they can deal with you being a liar. And so just be careful of that. 'Cause, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, I'm trying my best. And it's like, I understand that. And I see your heart behind it. And I think that's really cool. But you're trying your best and you're verbalizing something you didn't really believe now has made you appear to be a liar to this person. And this person may not be a believer. And so when they see you act like a fool over a situation, and now they're like, this is a guy who says he's, you know, mature, far along in his relationship with Christ, can't be offended. And then I saw, you know, such and such at the ballpark said something about him when his kid got thrown out and now he's fist fighting everybody and it's like, you have no idea the damage you just caused. And so, you know, but if you're honest about yourself, about, hey, look, man, you know, I don't believe I should be offended, but I am trying to work through that thing. I don't always nail it, but I'm working towards it. And then you have a mess up. People don't look at you like a liar. They look at you as somebody who's growing, and that's okay. And
that's the reason why we wanted to have both sides of it last week. Because I hear people say all the time, you know, speak things into existence. But you got to be careful with that. Because, you know, or say things that you want to be as if they are. And I understand that. But at the same time, then when you blow it and it's public, you know, or even if it's not, then all of a sudden the harder the stance you took, the worse it is. And so when you take those hard stances, which we take all the time, you have to be real confident and sure and tested and true in those things. Because, you know, that's not what you want to make sure, especially as a young Christian, you won't say, well, I'll never do this or never do that or whatever, because, you know, then when you blow it, it's that much tougher on you and other people. Now, we do like to draw those lines in the sand, but you better be ready for that. You know, you better be ready for those things. And like I said, last week was a great episode on how to handle offense, how to handle different things like that. And I think, you know, I think it was my wife or somebody, it's probably Miss Becky, but, you know, another term instead of refuse to get offended or whatever, another term could have been just getting your feelings hurt. You know, and I care so much about what people think that my feelings will get hurt. Now, I'm not mad, I'm not upset, I'm not angry or anything like that. I'm sure not going to try to go commit malice to them or whatever. But if I said that I don't let people hurt my feelings, then I would be wrong. You know, people say all the time, well, you know, that person is just using you. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I'm okay with that.
I've heard you say that.
And I'm okay with that. I understand that, you know. Well, that person's bullying you, you know. Okay, I understand that. And I'm not denying it, but I'm still not mad about it because I'm allowing it to happen, you know, because they couldn't do it if I didn't allow it to happen. So I'm allowing it to happen. Why? Because I see the bigger picture in it. Now, at some point, does that mean that I may get my feelings hurt? Sure. You know, does that mean I'm offended? No. Two totally different things there. You know, two totally different things. So, hey, it's a lot of emotions, you know, that deal with dealing with people each and every day. We teach you on here that you should be spirit-led, not emotion-led, and that's the way we live our lives. But we are people that have emotions, and people's words can have some impact on us. Now, we get to choose how much impact they do. But words are important. You know, you said earlier, you said, you know, people say, well, they can say anything to you and you're going to be okay with it, and you live by that. Well, just because I know that that's you, I know that I could say anything that I wanted to you and you're going to be okay. I know that. But I'm still not going to do it. Why? Because I don't want to. You know, and even though it's not that I don't think you can handle it, but I'm still not going to do it. You know, just because you've put it out there, doesn't mean that I'm going to try to take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that you refuse to be offended, I'm not going to try to offend you to see if you're really lying or not. I know you're telling the truth, but I'm not going to try to test that.
Yeah.
You know, but it's because we care about each other too.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and you touched on something that I think is important. I just want to echo it real quick. If you do shut the door on something altogether, you are responsible for that for the rest of eternity, and your integrity will be attached to it.
Yes.
And so that's just something to consider. If you're going to take my position and say that you can't be offended, you better not ever get that way.
And that was the kind of point last week was,
Sure.
the point that I was making is let's don't be so quick to make that stance if we're not tested and true and ready to make sure that we're going to continue with that stance.
Yeah.
Because it's just like you said earlier, it would be worse to do that than it would be to never do it at all. All right, here we go, practical. My wife said that 2 weeks ago we went from the ocean to sex, just like that. All right, one more. I tell guys all the time at the program, they come to the Lord, they love the Lord, they get saved, they don't want to do things the right way, and then they go to their girlfriend or they go to, the next girl that comes up or whatever, and they're like, look, I'm a Christian, and I'm not going to have sex before marriage. And I'm like, don't say that. And they're like, why not? And I said, because when you do that, then they're going to try you. Not because they want to be with you. They're going to try you to see if you're full of Jesus or if you're full of crap. You know what I'm saying? Because you're taking a hard line in the sand. I'm not going to have sex before marriage. She wants to know if you're real or not. She wants to know, is this guy just like everybody else, or is he real? So she might try to be with you not because she wants to be, but because she wants to see what kind of man you are. So if you're going to take a line in the sand like that and say, well, I'm not going to do this, then guess what? When you fail in that and she sees that, even though she played a part of it, then she just lost all respect for you.
Yeah, that's correct.
You might as well move on to the next person.
Yep.
So I'd rather somebody not even say that than to fail at it. Hey, didn't nobody make you say that? Didn't nobody tell you had to say that? Hey, is it in the Bible? Are you supposed to do it? Sure you are. But when you put that out publicly like that, you're going to get tried. And it ain't because of how good looking you are. It's because people want to see if you really going to stand up and do it or not.
Yeah.
And so it's like Andrew said, when you draw hard lines in the sand, when you close doors, you better be ready for it.
Yep. There's at least one non-believer listening to this right now that just wrote that down and is going to try it as a pickup line in the future.
Just to see if somebody...
Just to say, it's like, oh, you're telling me... Oh, golly, you got to give that one a shot.
Pickup line. There you go.
Yeah, so that one's on you. Yeah,
Amen.
you'll have to give
take that.
You'll have to give an account for that at the end of days. Not me. I will say another thing that you gotta be diligent about is if you close some doors, because I think there are some doors that everybody closes.
Yeah.
There are some things I know about you that you have closed those doors. You're not going to open them. You're not even going to entertain them, and you do have some of those.
Right.
Everybody does. You should.
Should.
You should grow to certain points, and so I will say this though: there is a danger in trying to be overprotective of your reputation, because. So let's, per instance, right? I don't get my feelings hurt. I'm not going to get offended about stuff. That's a door I chose to close, right? And I'm willing to stake my integrity on it. Despite what happens, despite how it goes, I'm going to be cool, calm, collected. That's just how I am. If you have something negative to say about me, I'm not going to hold it against you because I know you're dealing with some stuff, and I'm fine. However, human nature is to be offended about things, and so the people surrounding the situation may still assume that I'm offended, even though I'm not, because that's what would be natural for me to be offended about the things that have happened. And so I can't get so defensive of my reputation that I get offended now that people thought that about me. And so you have to be careful of stuff like that. Your reputation is not what Jesus sent you here to protect. He's not worried about your reputation. He wants you to live above reproach, but he's not worried about you defending your own honor. And so just live the way that Christ called you to live, and let the rest of it play out the way that it's going to play out. You know, people are always going to have things to say. It's okay.
Good advice from Andrew Skull. Look at there. That's good advice.
Breath. Yeah, I don't like that you sounded so surprised.
No, I just wanted everybody to take. I wanted to everybody to understand, to put a bow around that and understand that. That's a big deal. Something we hadn't really talked about before.
For sure. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about communication. We've taken I think like 3 or 4 weeks away from communication, and people are really enjoying that. And I've got a couple of questions for you that I'd like to kind of hear your take on. The first question is this: so in a scenario, you look at a leader and you look at his team, right? So just picture it as everybody standing in a line, right? You have certain people that encounter your obstacles or oppositions first, and you have other people that kind of deal with stuff on the back end. As a leader, where do you fit in that line? Should you be in the front of the line? Should you be first one in dealing with it? Should you let your people go in and you come in a little later? Should you be on the back? Like, where does the leader fit in terms of positionally in that line with his team?
Yeah. So I like this question. I like talking about this. It's something you and I haven't talked about. But I think a good leader can do both and do both very effectively. I've talked about before in the insurance business, I was the number one agent, but I was also a really good number two man. I think there's times in your group that the leader needs to step forward and take control and take care of issues and stuff. And I think that there's other times where the leader needs to trust his team enough to let them handle the brunt of it, and then at the end clean up anything or whatever. I told a female friend of mine one day, she said, I really wanted you to have my back in this, and there was an issue, something was going on. It was many years ago. I don't remember.
You told her that, or she told you that?
She told me that.
She told you that.
I was her leader.
Yeah.
And there was a potential offense that come up. Something happened. And instead of her receiving that and then me backing her up, I cut it off and went and took care of it before it ever got to her.
Gotcha.
And she told me, she said, I wanted you to have my back in this. And I said, well, instead of having your back, I had your front. I went and took it so that you wouldn't have to.
Sure.
Well, she was appreciative, but at the same time, she didn't want me to do that. She would have wanted it to come to her, then her take the stance, and then let me back her up and agree with her. But instead, I went and took the blow myself because I felt like, why should it come to her? I can handle this, you know. And so I think that every situation is different, and we had to look at it.
In hindsight, given her opinion after the fact, do you still feel like you handled that correctly? Or
I do, just because I could do it without emotions.
Sure.
And she would have done it, and it'd been a little more emotional at the time. Now
I understand.
Now, when she grew into that and understood that, then she knew why. I mean, we had a great conversation on it.
Sure.
I just needed to explain to her where I was, and she needed to explain to me where she was. But I think that as the leader, I had to make that call.
Yeah. So you clarified the context that I was missing. And so when you originally explained it, my first thought was, it sounds like she needed this experience. But now that you say that it was a high potential for her to get emotionally involved in the situation, now I recognize the reason you cut it off was because you didn't know if she'd be able to bounce back from whatever emotional
damage. I didn't know
damage.
that she was completely ready for that.
Yeah.
So I thought it was better for me to take the brunt and then me explain it to her in a way, because her and I did have a really good relationship. So I go take the blow, and then I explain to her the blow that I took. And then she's like, well, why didn't you just let them come tell me?
Yeah.
You know? And
because in that particular scenario, it'd be easier for you to be mad at me than it would be for you to suffer what you're going to have to suffer, and you might not bounce back from that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was also a good learning point for her to learn that if she could grow in those areas, then I would have all the confidence in the world.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I wasn't confident in her at all. It's just I cared deeply for her and didn't want anything bad to happen.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that there's lots of times where a leader needs to lead, and I think there's a lot of times where a leader has already led. He's already got them where they need to be, and now it's time for them to be able to do those things.
Yeah, it is very, very difficult, and I don't want to say there's never a time, because I think that, you know, in some way there's always a time for everything, but almost never. There's almost never a time for you as a leader to allow someone to be wounded if you can prevent it. Because wounded people do not act rationally. I'm not going to get into a bunch of context about that. We can talk about that another day, but I can just tell you that when somebody is wounded, they'll say things that they don't mean. They'll react in ways they don't feel. They'll express the situation the way that they perceive it rather than the way that it was. And it just creates a really muddy mess. And so if you can prevent someone from being wounded, it happens. Now, there are sometimes circumstances and stuff where you didn't get to make that call. Somebody else wounded from the other side, and now you're just kind of left to deal with it. That's a reality we have to deal with sometimes. But it shouldn't come from you. It should never come from you. And so as far as leading from the front or the back, I would say that it's really easy to say what you said, and what you said is correct. It's a lot harder in practice. So a good leader leads from the middle and is always ready to move, right? There are certain situations you need to barrel in head first. You need to be the first man through the door. It's going to inspire confidence in your team, seeing their leader step first into this situation and go boldly, and they're going to follow with that same tenacity. But when you are in the front, understand that you can't see what's far ahead of you. You have to deal with what's right in front of you. So you've lost all sort of long-term vision, and so because you're dealing with the here and now. That's the danger of staying in the front. And there are some leaders that and you know some, and I know some, and that's just the reality is we know both. Yeah. And so I know some leaders that they're just gung-ho and they're aggressive, and they can't operate any other way, only aggressive. And those guys struggle a lot with any sort of long-term vision. And man, it causes all kind of problems. Now, there are certain areas they're extremely successful in, but there's a lot of other areas that the business or the company or whatever they run, the team, suffers because of the lack of long-term vision. And even though they executed well what was right in front of them, now they're having to suffer the aftermath of everything that they destroyed in order to get a result in that moment. And so that can be difficult. Now, on the flip side of that, when you lead from the rear, you send your team in first because you're looking at the long term. A lot of times, man, you're missing the things that are happening right underneath your nose. You miss the things that happen underneath your nose for too long, then the condition of the team starts to deplete without your knowledge because you're looking beyond them, right? You got the binoculars. You can't see right underneath you. You got the binoculars, and you're seeing what you hope to happen. But if you miss what's underneath you too long, then that deteriorates to a point where you're not going to get to what you see. Even though what you see is beautiful, you no longer have the stability to get there. And so a good leader operates in the middle. He's willing to step in and get in the front when he needs to, but he's also willing to do what it takes to have long-term vision for the future. But really, that middle portion is where it's at. It's where you're close enough to the situation where you know your hand is on the pulse of everything that's happening within you. You're not the first one in the door, but your hand is on the pulse of everything that's happening. But you're not so jammed up in everything that's happening that you can't take a step back and look around. And so that's the position of true leadership, which is very, very hard to pull off because nobody talks about the middle place. The middle place isn't a thing. Everybody wants to talk about what's going on now or what's going on later. How do you even word that conversation.
Right.
You know, hey, let's talk about some of the intermediate things. Not a thing.
Right.
You know, not a thing, not a conversation. And so the practice of it is difficult because we tend to get suctioned towards one direction or the other, whichever we're more effective at. If you're somebody that you consider yourself a visionary, your natural bias is going to be to lean toward the back. If you're somebody that considers yourself a go-getter, your natural bias is going to be to lean towards the front. I lean way further towards the front than I do the back. Right. You know, that's my natural bias. And so I have to be intentional about not getting so focused on what's happening right now that I can't see the future. And
well,
so,
you used the word pulse. I was going to say heartbeat. You know, you when you operate from the middle, you understand the pulse or the heartbeat of the team a lot more. You know, if you're out in front, you're fighting a battle and you're doing those things. But if your team's so far behind, then you don't really know if they're happy that you're doing it or not. You don't really know how they feel. You're not able to sense the emotions of the team because just like in that instance that I used, that young lady at the time would have rather me not go fight that for her. You know, and so how far out front you are and how long you stay out there, even though you're doing what you think is best and you're fighting the battle, but yet you're further away from your team and further away from understanding them. So like you said, being in the middle as much as possible and seeing, okay, this one's ready to step up for this part. This one's ready for this. I'll sit back on this. Then those are good things. You know, when we had our men's advanced a few weeks ago, I sat in a group and I thought it was really cool. I get to go to this thing that I don't have to lead. I can just be a group member. And even though, you know, a lot of these people consider me to be their pastor and mentor and different things like that, they're leading the group and I'm just sitting back. Well, when it came time to discuss things, you know, I didn't want to always go last, but I wanted to go last way more than I wanted to go first.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes they were waiting on me to talk and I had to refuse because I knew that if I did talk, then everybody else in the circle were going to say that they saw things the way I saw.
yeah.
But if I, you know, made them go first, then really none of them kind of had the same opinion. You know, so we're in a group of 6, and if I would have answered the question, the other 5 people that went behind me would have said, yeah, I'm pretty much like Clay on this or whatever. But because one of them had to go first and it comes back around to me, then really all 5 of them had a different of opinion. And in my opinion, really was a combination of a lot of theirs, you know. And so it just made them feel more valid because I was able to come along after the fact. Instead of in the front. Whereas if I would have jumped up front and answered the question first, they would have just fell in line with that answer.
Sure. And then you got to ask yourself this question as a leader: what kind of team have you developed or recruited? You know, because you are responsible for your team. And so if you've got a bunch of guys who are go-getters, lean towards the back.
Amen.
Let them do what they do. You don't have to show them that you're the best. You know, I'd much rather find people who do what I do well better than I do and let them do that. You know, I want the best guy in the best place. I hope I'm not that guy. And so if you have a bunch of people that have, you know, great long-term vision but have a hard time with now, let them supply the vision and you help pave the way. And then you need to constantly be training whatever holes you have. So if I'm having to be the go-getter, I'm training people to be the go-getter. Like while I'm here, I'm teaching them. I'm not just doing it and saying, hey, watch this. I'm doing it and teaching them and doing it and teaching them. And then I'm giving them more and more of the responsibilities of those roles, the more that they're following me, so that by the end of it all, they can do everything that I did.
Right.
And then they get to add their own personal skill set to it. And now they're better than me. Because I taught them everything that I do, but I don't know what they're good at. And so now they've got all my skills because I've been training them. and they've also still got theirs. And so now they've surpassed me in an area, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Well,
And
let's put that in practical. You know, we got a friend of ours, Ray Mejiz, that owns Raging Bull food truck. And it's a great food truck. I ate there yesterday. Anytime they're around town, try to eat there. If y'all hadn't checked them out, check them out. But Ray shared Jesus Cartel with some people and said, hey, my small business friends, if y'all are into podcasts, you know, check these guys out because they talk a lot about, you know, communication, leadership, stuff like that. So let's put it practical. I know the guys that work for Ray in the food truck. And to be honest with you, and they can get mad or whatever, there's not a part of that food truck that Ray can't do better than the people that he has hired.
Yep.
If you came to the counter and Ray was the guy working at the counter, it's going to be a better experience than the other people.
Sure.
Hey, I love the other people. They're all friends of mine. Okay.
Yeah.
If Ray's on the grill, you know, hey, you're going to have a better experience because Ray's on the grill. If Ray's the one getting all the orders together and doing, you know, the final preparations to where it all looks better, food's going to look a little bit better. You know, if you asked Ray, you know, if you asked where they should go this week or for the next month, what the calendar looks like, Ray's going to pick out a better calendar than the rest of the people are. But Ray can't do it all on his own.
That's right.
So Ray's got to be able to train up and put the right people in the right situations with the right training for him to do the best that they can. You know, the guy that I remember when my son Cooper helped him when he was young, and Cooper was the person that would you know, do the plates at the end. So somebody else was meeting the customers and everything. Somebody else was on the grill, and then Cooper would put the tacos together and stuff. Well, Cooper is real. He likes things to be perfect. He likes things to be just right. So he was able to take that, and that finished product had Cooper's stamp on it, you know. And those tacos look better because of Ray's vision and Cooper, you know, being a perfectionist. Then that was a good product. Yep. But if you would have had Cooper go to the front and do that, he could have done it well, but not as well as the person that Ray chose to do that, you know. And so a good leader can recognize skill sets of people, recognize what they need to do, what part they don't need to do. And then when Ray had it all to where everybody knew what they were doing, it was best for Ray to step out of there.
Yep.
Let all of them use their gifts and talents and let them jump up, because now Boss Man is not in there. Boss Man's outside meeting the public or planning the next event or talking to this one or whatever, and now they're really able to really do what God's called them to do.
Yeah.
Now, at any moment that they get sick or they decide this is not what they want to do or they drop the ball, Boss Man come in there and go take care of it.
That's right.
And that's a good place to be as a leader, is, hey, I've trained all of you. You now know how to do. I've put you in the right positions. You know, you're ready to go. But instead of, you know, you've watched me do it. Now we've done it together. But at some point, they're going to take the next step by you backing out and letting them do.
That's right.
But you got to know your team, like you were saying earlier. You got to see what kind of team you have.
That's right. That's good stuff, man. Only thing I disagree with is, you know, you said your friend Ray. I don't know if me and Ray are friends. You know, I like Ray. Yeah. I can say that with confidence. So I can tell you he's never given me $20.
Really?
And so that's usually kind of how I gauge.
You don't get free food at the Raging Bull when you go?
No, and I don't expect free food.
Okay.
You know, he's got a business. I understand that. But, you know, friendship, you'd think, you know, all of my friends have given me $20 at some point. You know, I know I've given them $20. I've never gotten $20 from Ray.
I got you.
And so, you know, I'm hoping that we can bridge that gap soon.
Maybe
and,
so.
You know, cross over into some new territory.
Maybe so.
Hey, look, man, that's all I got. You got anything else you want to share?
Have we been this whole time already?
Yeah, man, we rolled through this.
Man, we did good. Hey, look, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Tell everybody about Jesus Cartel. If they're listening to something else, we don't know why. And Andrew next week is going to give us an update on the merchandise.
That's right. Yeah.
See y'all later.